Oh, you son of a bitch. Really? That was it? I had to update the actual software during the break, and that was it. There was a bug. It was a 0.3 update. Son of a bitch. So annoying. Dun dun dun. Oh, you son of a bitch. Really? That was it?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum. Things are going to start happening to me now.
Live exclusively for WCPT AM and FM in Chicago and streaming worldwide at chicagosprogressivetalk.com. Standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Go do the binds.
All right, audio is working on the YouTube feed now. Yay! Thank you. Oh. Apparently, there was an update to the software that was one of those 0.3 updates. You know what I mean? Like, it used to have version 5.111 or whatever, and you're like, oh, there was a issue. I get it. Okay. And they fixed that one thing that I've been scrambling trying to fix. So, ta-da. Perfect time to take even more of your calls. P.S.
I love you.
Yes, P.S. I love you. It is becoming increasingly clear, by the way, that the Islamic State group, while they are being sold as hardline theological, just zealots.
Illogical,
Yeah, right.
if you ask me.
Really? Zealots. They're zealots. That's the idea, is that they believe so much in their religion that they will cut somebody's head off if they just disagree. This is the general thought. Have you heard anything contrary to this in the media?
I didn't realize there was another option. What's option 2 if you disagree with someone?
Well, no. Option 2 is they're not. That they
Yeah,
actually have a lot of people in their in their workings, in their group, that don't think that way. And it turns out that a lot of the higher ups that were involved in all this, that are involved in this, in how ISIL or ISIS is running, are actually a lot of former Baathists, Saddam Hussein loyalists, who were, after we moved in, killed him and turned the army loose, had nothing to do, and had a beef to pick with the United States. So they're the ones who are supporting this organization with strategy and mechanical assistance. When the Iraqis drop their weapons and run away, these are the guys that show the ISIS fighters how to use them. But they are actually a secular pan-Arab Islamic group. They believe in they're I don't know, for lack of a better, they're like when you just say Christian, doesn't matter if you're Lutheran or Methodist or Baptist or what have you. They don't make that distinction, nor would they ever care to. So
secular. I mean, you're really saying it was secular. That it's religion is separate from it.
Yes, yeah.
What they're doing.
That they're. I mean, this has a lot to do with oil, and the control of a region that has resources.
God, yeah.
And that these guys know that.
And the rest of that is just convenience.
Right.
To say that it's, it can help you. It's just like all the crazy senators who say that they did things because
Jesus.
God told them to.
Jesus, right.
Yeah, because of the Bible, even though
it gives you a higher point from to which begin your fight from. You get higher ground to fire your first shot. And when you come from a righteously indignant or morally superior point of view, or can present it as such, you automatically have a leg up on anybody who just wants to make a fair argument, which is unfortunate. But especially the more closely regarded fundamentalism is to whatever region you're in. So if you'll notice, that happens in the South or in places like Utah in the United States, where if you make a fundamentalist argument about something, the people in those regions are more apt to go along with you based on simple fundamentalism. The book says so. Then, yeah, well, the book used to say this too. and now we obviously don't do that anymore. So
the luxury of not having to think things all the way through is just beyond me.
Right, and that's the thing, is that you have all these people have your back. And the ironic part about, you know, dealing with ISIS and buying the zealot storyline and selling it, by the way, one of the reasons why the president, I think, uses the term ISIL instead of ISIS is because it actually is beneficial when you muddy up the message of your opposition. Whoever you're trying to bring down, if you'll notice, Fox News has a tendency in their attempt to make political points in this country of turning ISIS or Al-Qaeda or the forces that attacked the compound at Benghazi into nearly superhuman, you know, like Bond
insurmountable
villains. Right, that require every military option, every possible element of fight, because we can't fight against them. They are the big boss on this level of the video game, and it's going to take...
Are you telling me to be afraid?
Well, that's exactly the message. But the idea is that you can't make points with, well, this is something we got to watch out for. You have to go, this is the, you know what I mean? You're selling, this is the most dangerous thing ever. And when have they not been selling, this is the most dangerous thing ever? When has that not been the message? When is
even my dentist just says, you know, we need to keep an eye on that filling. He never says this filling.
Yeah,
it's going to be the end of you and me.
Even if it could, even if periodontal disease is directly related to cardiovascular disease, and that flossing can actually lower your chance of having a heart attack later on. Even if that's true, he's not going to express it like that because he doesn't want to freak you out. So you go nuts. Because you become a psychotic flosser for 2 weeks. You bleed your gums dry, and you come back in with some sort of weird oral infection because you just went, I'm scared, I'm gonna and, you know, and you overreact, and you basically have a tiny little Iraq policy in your mouth. You've just bled the region dry. You're freaking out because you've created
dental fundamentalism.
Secondary, blowback, if I can use that term. But the idea. Honestly, every time we're sold something on these, the president seems to have this thing where he's like, yeah, this is, you know, he even made the case, like, just because you put on the jersey doesn't make you Jordan, you know, that ISIS is not Al-Qaeda, and the...
Did he say that?
Yeah. Yeah, he said, you know, these guys are picking up the weapons of the Iraqi military.
LeBron.
Yeah, right. I think he may have said LeBron, but I didn't remember anything. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make...
I hope he said Jordan.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that if you're going to express that there's a threat we have to deal with on a governmental level, it is and a media level, mitigatory language is incredibly important. You know, unless you think the threat is imminent, like they've got a nuclear weapon, it's on a boat, it's on its way, and no one's listening to you, then run around banging the hoods of cars. You know what I mean? Like, they're coming! Bang, bang, you know? But anything short of that, where there's actual diplomacy and policy and troop movements and the potential for undercover work and, you know, tacit agreements with countries that don't necessarily align with us politically the rest of the time, all those elements, if that stuff's going on, you have a responsibility to be balanced in your language in dealing with the threat, because all you're doing is inflating it. All you're doing is turning ISIS into a recruiting machine, because now a few months ago they were exactly what our earlier was saying, was a bunch of guys in a truck with borrowed guns, and now they're Dr. No. You know what I mean? Now they're Syndrome from The Incredibles. Now
I expect you to die.
Exactly. And they get to pat themselves on the back because they're now scaring the biggest country in the world.
Right.
And then they become the group that can scare the biggest country in the world. And so now that they're scaring then everybody else who wants to scare the biggest country in the world lines up with them.
Yep.
Because
or they look at that playbook.
Right. It is stunning to me how blind they are to that. But then that's, you know, the politics of discussing something as murky as our relationship with the Middle East in terms of fighting and dying and bombing and spying. Yeah, see how I did that? Is is extraordinary, and we seem to want every gain we have, toss it out the window in the name of short-term political points, or to reassure ourselves that we somehow need a leader, that fearlessness only comes with fearless-sounding language.
Right.
When actually, I think it betrays a tremendous amount of fear. And as a matter of fact, I think the president's statement about ISIS.
There's nothing wrong with
doing,
fear, by the way. Without fear, there's no courage.
Exactly. It informs how you act. And basically, the president is realizing that the public has been scared into a higher threat level internally than is necessary. So he's got to come out and kind of go, look, guys, we're doing what we need to do, but we're not going to go crazy with this. We will handle this to calm down to some degree the American people. Mm-hmm. We're not changing policy. There wasn't not a strategy and now there's a strategy. We had the exact same strategy we had, except we were doing it the way we should be doing it, which was on low key and specifically targeted. Now we had to come out and go, we're doing low key, specifically targeted stuff because it's like. Announce it to the world is what the Republicans were saying. We don't have a strategy until they know our strategy. Why in the world would you want to discuss your strategy openly when dealing with a terrorist group?
Which sadly, the only person who said that on MSNBC that night was the Reverend.
Yeah, Al Sharpton. Why are you going to discuss what you're going to do? That's like outing Valerie Plame like a whole platoon of planes.
And he sounded ridiculously cogent. And everybody was overreacting except that dude. And I was like, oh, and you got to step your game back up, MSNBC, because he is the voice of reason in this crowd.
Yeah. They got blueberry pie all over their faces. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, with more of your calls. 773-763-9278. Now with YouTube audio. I can't believe it. All right.
Yes, I'm living for the day. I'm gonna hear you say you're not afraid of me anymore.
Nice. I think what this war-hungry crowd needs is a good dose of blatant ironic sarcasm, just attacks on all levels. All right.
You got the talent, the signs from me. What you don't know is you're the best man in the world. Best man in the world.
What's the third one there? Let's see.
Best man in the world.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
773-763-9278 is our number. 773-763-9278. That's right. Put it in your phone.
Well done. Yeah, you take requests.
Yeah,
we have
true.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 callers.
Oh man,
now.
let's go. Yeah. who do we
James from Fla.
got? Okay. James? Yeah.
I'm gonna guess it's Florida. James, you still with us?
I'm still here, Hal.
Yeah. Fire away. Welcome to the show.
Doing a great show.
Thanks.
I miss you on Wednesdays.
Well.
And this
Appreciate
is just a little bit off topic, except that it speaks to the revisionist history subject. I just found this out last night, and I would like to suggest you just Google Sandy Hook didn't happen.
Oh yeah, the dude from Colorado GOP candidate. That guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's my aunt's dentist.
He's your aunt's dentist.
And the dentist reference goes full circle right there.
Tom Reedy, right? Who's he's running for county commissioner.
Right.
Yeah. I'll see if I can pull up the audio on it.
And may I ask, does he like pontificate to your aunt while she's a captive audience in his chair?
Can I have gas, please? Because I don't want to hear your weird theories.
You're freaking me out.
Says she's been going to him for 50 years.
Wow.
And she's a very progressive. So, anyway,
No, I appreciate the call. Yeah, we're gonna do a whole show on how the Alex Jonesing of the Republican Party at this point.
And then can I just say that James was on hold for 40 minutes to make sure that he got that out there,
That's
there
awesome.
to all of us.
Yeah, no.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, that and by the way, I knew exactly what he was talking about the minute he started talking. I did not know that was his mom's dentist, though.
Well,
that's
no.
amazing.
Score one for Florida.
Yeah, right on. Who else do we got? Let's make sure
we have
get in.
Dave from Illinois on line 5.
Hey, Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, Al. Yeah, Secretary Kerry's been trying to get this coalition of the willing, if you will, together. He's gotten, about 10 of the Arab countries to, kind of back up, but none of them right now are willing to send their troops. They're willing to give money and aid and, humanitarian aid and things of that nature, but they don't want to do it. And then the biggest trump card they want to get is Turkey, and Turkey don't want, they're very, very hesitant on doing this stuff because, like a year ago when we were going to take down Assad, supposedly, we didn't do nothing, and plus, back in June, this ISIS had overrun Turkey's consulate, and they got 49 of their civilians, and
they're all being held right now.
Diplomats that are kidnapped, and they don't want them to be paraded out in orange jumpsuits and get their heads cut off. So
right, and it makes a weird alliance for them with the Kurdish forces, which are sort of the most balanced, capable force in the region right now. Because unfortunately, Turkey is at odds with that group because there's a section that wants to break off and form Kurdistan and really make it its own country. And they're fighting that because it's an oil-rich region and it bleeds over into Iraq, and there can be slant drilling and all that kind of stuff. So they don't want the Kurds to have a stabilized government either. It's and it's a resource conflict in that regard, but it puts them in the untenable position of having to their enemy is their ally in this circumstance. My enemy's
enemy is my friend. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And then we're trying to get their regional allies, so we're not going to be undercut. Even though,
right.
The extremists are Sunni, as is Saudi and Jordan and Qatar, and then from Assad, he also would like it but he's also backed by Iran, who's Shiite, and that the above mentioned countries, they all
right,
view them as a threat. So
well, they
all want to take them down. But,
essentially, and when it comes to the the Shia versus Sunni aspect of it, it is clearly. The United States did not ultimately get into a fight with Protestantism and Catholicism in the conflict between Northern Ireland and England. And effectively, that's what that war was about. There was as many bombings and murders and all that stuff as any ISIS fighter could ever hope for. In the back and forth over the division of which form of Christianity these groups would ultimately have, would actually worship or be allowed to, and most of it was odd because I guess C of E running Ireland wouldn't have actually changed what you could have worshipped at one point. It became like, I don't remember what I'm fighting for. I just remember you killed my dad's cousin.
Yeah, that's what it gets down to.
Yeah, and it rolled and rolled and rolled.
The McCoys in Europe, and then talking about overrunning. Back about a month ago to 6 weeks ago, those ISIS had overrun the Syrian air base, and they had also got a hold of those man pads, and that's what been kind of our biggest worry, because some of those man pads are some of the newer ones with technology, and if they happen to get one of our fighter planes knocked down, then what do we do?
Right. Then we're in a full-scale war.
Is down, and then they parade him out in the orange suit, and they do him. Then what? Then that's boots on the ground.
That's exactly it. And by the way, specific.
So others can get on that. Your first caller talked about them with the machine guns on the back of the the 50s or whatever on the back of the pickup trucks. Well, I seem to recall about a year ago the Syrian rebels had machine guns on the back of the pickup trucks too. So I mean, if you're looking down saying that they're ragtag, and in Somalia they had the machine guns on the back of the pickup trucks, and what happened there to us in Somalia. So
right, and that's the thing that becomes the question: to escalate or not escalate? Do you get involved or not involved? Does your lack of involvement or your full involvement actually create more or less blowback? And at that point, you're just picking the worst of two options. And so the idea that we would do it quickly and loudly is ridiculous. So, anyways, thanks for the call.
I think we can start playing that Paul Simon song, "Slip Sliding Away."
Totally. Appreciate the call. Let me grab one more call before we have to go to break. Who do we have?
Are we going up to line one?
Yeah, sure.
Dennis, we've got Bob in Illinois.
Hey, Bob, welcome to the show.
Yeah, and the first caller mentioned that he didn't care about some of the people that were sending our boys over there. I care about everybody, but the problem is that we all have a defect, and that's that we rank people. And I will rank Dennis Kucinich over a lot of the Hawks in a lot of ways, just like I rank my son in the Navy over any.
Hello,
of the,
what's your name?
Whoops, sorry.
Hello, Siri. I'm Cortana.
Go ahead.
Hi, Cortana.
But the other thing is, he mentioned to Tom Hartman the other day that we shouldn't go anywhere with a gun, even if it's in our pocket, with the safety on, without having a draft. And basically, I just like to say that I not only support that, but I think the draft should be progressive. Back in the NAM era, we had a draft, and it didn't even work because the people that counted, and those were the people with money, went to the National Guard or learned to fly F-15s, and never got to fly them any place but over the desert.
Right.
The bushes. But what we need is a draft where if you're a senator's kid, or if you vote anywhere in Congress, or if you're with the State Department, I think you should automatically get docked 50 or 100 points on that 1 to 365 that everybody drew back then. And if you happen to be a defense contractor's kid, get docked another 100 points. Take the people that are making the money first. If you're in the energy business, not that we ever go to the Middle East for energy with a gun, but if you happen to be in the energy business, knock off another 100 points. And boy, if you happen to be in the energy business and a senator's kid and had money invested in a defense contractor, maybe you'd get
he might be pregnant
automatically.
Right.
Yeah.
Appreciate the call.
And leave the poor Yeah, leave the poor kid in Inglewood that hasn't got a job and is getting nothing out of any of the money we're spending over there. Leave him go to 365.
Right. Well, yeah, I agree with you that in that the idea that a draft would absolutely reflect a major shift publicly and diplomatically in this country towards how we feel about going to war and how quickly. And in many ways, that's what they're worried about. Every time it's brought up, it will be shot down. There is no way that class, the very people that were able to avoid it, are ever going to let it start again, because all those ways of avoiding it will be taken away. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll take more of your calls, 773-763-9278. And I want to discuss a little bit more about our options and the election. We'll be back.
You utter creep.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back to the show. Let's take some more calls. Who do we got there, Johnny?
Are we up to line 2 here, Dennis?
Yep.
All right, we've got Paul in Washington.
Hey, Paul, welcome to the show.
You know, back in the last Iraq War, the George W. Bush, Dick W. Cheney, Donald W. Rumsfeld War, and the W stands for war.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we were told that the regular Iraqi army, they'll probably surrender right away.
Mm-hmm.
But that battle-hardened Republican Guard, they'd been in a war with Iran, so they may take a week or two, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we go from a regular army, we're talking about several 100,000 dudes, but now this group ISIS, which is about 15,000 dudes, I understand, this may take a while. I mean, we're already hearing they're a very good football team. We don't want to underestimate them. You know, this,
right?
I mean,
it's the same language. It is the same ESPN talk we hear every time. And like I said, the threat just gets bigger and bigger, and it's getting to the point where I'm getting this cry wolf like reflex now that even if it was a threat, I don't buy it to some degree. And I think a lot of people are at that point. I think that's why we're behind airstrikes, because we're like, I don't know, just bomb them from the air. I'll see you next week.
See what happens.
Yeah.
They haven't even been in a battle yet. Really, have we heard about a battle that took place and went, ooh, those cats are tough?
Right, no.
There hasn't even been a battle yet.
No, the biggest one was, you're right, the biggest one was against the Iraq forces, who apparently dropped their stuff and ran away. But it wasn't like they died to the last man or something, and we don't know how early.
That was because they're like, who are we really fighting for here? Everybody's corrupt. I'm not going to risk myself for this. It wasn't because they were overwhelmed.
Right. They were just, these guys are a bunch of just marauders. As a matter of fact, they really haven't shown that they can have any effect against except people who kill people who are unarmed. I suggest that the Ferguson, Missouri police force could handle these cats. I mean, I think that's who we should send in.
I think you're absolutely right in that. We are allowing the ratcheting language to happen without any response on. I mean, if John McCain wants to come on television and say that they're the most dangerous threat to American freedom ever, I mean, honestly, at what point? How do we go? No, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes, they are. Well, last time you said they were the worst threat. Well, these guys really are. We took care of those guys. Yeah. We had it won. Like, it's just this never-ending cycle of these are the most dangerous people. This is the most liberal senator in the history of ever. He's going to turn us into, he's Marxist, communist. Everybody's a Muslim. The president isn't just a worshiping Muslim. He's got friends in the Muslim Brotherhood. Like, it's not that he's a community organizer. It's that he knows, Bill Ayers, and Bill Ayers wanted to blow up the earth, and like everything gets ratcheted so much to be the worst thing ever, because I guess that's the only primary motivating force. We have to work in the Fox News rationale here. We may never know whether these guys are the worst thing on the planet. Sure. So you can set up for the next one.
We may never know.
There may be a gay version. We don't know. There may be.
That's right.
It may get to the point. ISIS is the worst thing right now, unless there's a gay version. In which case, they've got an agenda.
That's right.
That's it. And I guarantee that. I mean, everybody is the march of the worst thing ever. Everybody, and from the Fox News point of view. And the only way to handle it is all-out war. You can't, even, we talk about birth control and all the social issues in this country. The Hobby Lobby ruling came out, and this family is now suing, trying to do this Obamacare lawsuit. And it's the guy's going to run for office again. He holds an office. He's going to run for a higher office at some point. And I'll look up his name in a minute. But he makes the point that this is a violation of his rights because his daughters will have birth control available to them, and that's the equivalent of Obamacare forcing them to use abortifacients and birth control. And I'm like, at what point does your moral argument not exist and you're not being forced anything? You're being allowed to. There's streets you don't drive. You could, if somebody leaves their car open, that doesn't mean you're going to steal. It's at a certain point you're responsible to some degree, one would think, for your own like moral capability. And since that's what they're arguing all the time, we should be able to do that. But then we're talking about the same people who like they're Christians whose only response is carpet bombing.
All right. Well, as Alex Jones said, we may never know Barack Obama is a Muslim.
Right.
We just may never know that.
We may never get to know, and I hope at some point we don't know because I'm selling a lot of freedom seeds. Appreciate the call. Let's see if we can take one more call, and pound through these because we're, setting them up. That was great.
I was turned off. We're going to line 3.
Turned by the whole conversation.
Gold Coast Steve.
You were turned off by the whole conversation?
I wasn't turned off in that sense of it.
Okay.
I was literally turned off.
Oh, that's sad. Okay. Welcome, Steve.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Just a couple of points. One with regard to the draft question. You made an excellent point. I mean, this is sort of a non-issue issue. It equates to Berkeley, California in the 70s and 80s declaring themselves a nuclear-free zone, at the city council level. Right. I mean, what sense, does it make to have that conversation? And it does not impact foreign policy, and it's not as if, the Soviet Union is going to say, oh, we're about to, hit the United States, but, remember to leave Berkeley out because their city council declared.
Yeah.
Such. So, I mean, the notion that, that there's going to be a draft and that somehow we should change the protocols such that the more you profit in this country, the higher up your child is going. It's absurd. It's going nowhere. The civilian population doesn't want it. The military doesn't want it. We're not a nation that's going back to a draft. So I don't know why we would waste our time talking about that sort of thing.
Well, I think it's momentary fantasy, but I think you're absolutely right. There's no way that we're ever going to get to the point where they're going to allow that to happen. It's
right, exactly, and especially as we move away from wars in which we have boots on the ground. America, in the same way that in the post-Vietnam era, was very wary about that kind of war. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, whatever else we're discussing, there's virtually who's calling for battalions and battalions of Americans to be airlifted to that region and engage in land warfare, boots on the ground, as they say, with ISIS. Give credit where credit is due. This nation is wary of that kind of war. Mm-hmm. We are willing, given our technology, to engage in this sort of air power war, which would degrade ISIS. But one of the problems here is that we constantly are sort of misled and led down this path to war because we think that there is this sort of fantasy on the other side of the war. I would argue that, yes, in Germany and Japan, that there is a peace that was only to be found on the other side of war. But in today's day and age, we have this sort of notion that, if we could just win, all of a sudden Iraq and the entire region would turn into Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And that this is what they would be happy-go-lucky, and we'd have wonderful democracy, no corruption, which is absurd.
Right.
I mean, it takes centuries of imbuing the democratic ideals, even in this country where democracy is far from perfect. We've been practicing it for centuries, and somehow you're going to take a region that has no experience with this kind of concept, and then on the other side of a war, you're going to have this kind of stability that is inherent in the United States, right. and Western Europe. It's absurd.
Well, it's simply it's absurd in the same sense that it didn't happen here that quickly. And arguably, if you listen to the South will rise again crowd, it's never been settled. Honest to God, the same people who are saying we can shove democracy down the throats of people in the Middle East at the barrel of a gun, at the end of the barrel of a gun, are the exact same people who say the South will rise again and call this the war of northern aggression. And I don't know how to say that in Arabic. I would imagine there's some Sunnis and some Shiites going the South will rise again in their own languaging.
Absolutely. And if you think that there are crazy wingnuts in this country, both on the right and the left, who get their sources of information from people like Alex Jones and wacko internet sites, they have nothing on the Middle East. I mean, the kind of conspiracy theories that are abound in the Middle East. I mean, they're actually, I'm certainly no fan of Israel's policies in the West Bank and Gaza and so forth. But, among the Palestinian population, there was a poll a couple of years ago in which half of the Palestinians believe that Israelis actually drink the blood of Palestinian children.
Right.
I mean, this is the kind of nonsense.
Everybody knows that. That's only on Yom Kippur. They don't do it it's not, you can't afford to do it that regularly. I mean, most people know that at this point. I know it is on the same level. By the way, this is the same thing that the peasants used to say about the Romanian royalty. And some of that was one of the queens that was sort of true, but that's how you would demonize your ruling party for in a lot of different situations like that. And it's not surprising that Palestinians how they feel attacked all the time. That's like, I don't care what difference does it make if they drink their blood. I would like to be alive first. There's an element of they're so screwed that anything seems plausible.
Exactly. Now, I would like to conclude by saying that people need to recognize that ISIS is not one coherent entity.
Right.
ISIS is a sort of conglomeration of numerous entities that have recognized that they have a common enemy in other groups.
Oh, come on, Steve. Next thing you're going to tell me that Al-Qaeda isn't a masterful group that meets every Wednesday.
Exactly.
And has a
left to their own
right.
Yes, left to their own devices, sooner or later, they're going to be at each other's own throats. But that's another issue.
Right, and then we get to deal with that later because we gave them the guns to shoot at each other with, and then we have to pick a side in that fight too. We'll be back right after this with a happy ending. It's the Hal Sparks Radio Program, Mega Worldwide.
I'm going southbound. I'm going southbound.
Let's see if this is...
Well, Tom and I had a conversation in the back, and I said, we're going to stay positive, right? And he said, yeah, absolutely.
Facts are facts.
Well, if we want to talk about values, a couple weeks ago, I was disturbed by a link you posted on your Facebook page about an article claiming the Newtown Sandy Hook school shooting is a hoax perpetrated by the federal government to advance a gun control agenda. 26 people died that day, including Daniel Barden. And my cousin, who's a firefighter in Newtown, went to his funeral. Gave an official
we got two calls. You want to knock these out and then do the happy ending?
Sounds good.
And I want to ask you, how can you possibly think that Sandy Hook was a hoax? And do you still stand by these offensive and morally reprehensible claims that you disseminated online? And what do you say to the first responders who saw the carnage, or the families like Daniel's who lost their angels?
There's still question about whether it really happened, Sal. Some of the people in the videos. So, thank you very much. If you recall, there was a picture of a man walking in whose daughter had died. He was smiling and joking. When he walked into the room, he turned and all of a sudden had tears in his eyes. Why? I question that. You saw these pictures, and there's a lot of stuff that floats around Facebook. Whether it's all true or not, it's called an open discussion. Nothing wrong with an open discussion. I push a lot of things out there. Most of it's for open discussions.
Okay. Sal?
I have no response.
Okay. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please. I mean, even if we disagree very much, let's let...
Wow. Yeah, so that's the guy that he was talking about.
Going to a party. Meet me on after school.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks Radio Program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
Welcome back to the show. Let's take 2 more calls and then we'll get into our happy ending because I want to. They've been holding for a while, so I want to make sure we get to
We got Nashville Carl.
Cool. Hey, Nashville Carl. All right.
Hello, all right. Hey, guys, how's it going today?
Good.
Well, I'm going to be real quick, because pretty much I agree with you. What the hell is wrong with Americans that we're so easily scared into these type of things? And then, are we as a nation as ignorant as I think we are? I mean, are we, and all kidding aside, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but Al-Qaeda was supposed to be the biggest threat. Never mind that the Russians and Chinese have enough nuclear weapons pointed at us that could destroy the whole planet 10 times over. But we're supposed to be scared of guys on the back of a truck,
right?
Toyota truck with the 50 cal, with airplanes that they don't know how to fly, with equipment that they may not even, because see, I can have 1,000 airplanes, and if I don't know how to fly the damn thing, then I might as well have 1,000 paperweights.
Oh yeah.
I mean, wow. Are we that easily? Are we that easily scared? Are we that ignorant as a nation? And then another thing you brought up, dude, we're doing exactly what he said we were doing. He got on national television,
right,
and told the American public, "Hey, you know that thing that I've been doing, that I've done 150 times before? I'm going to continue to do that. God bless America."
Right. Good night.
I mean,
Microphone drop. I know. That was the weirdest thing. And I was trapped between the idea of, like, what ultimately did he say? He simply said what we've already seen happen in the press, because saying anything else would give away anything that we're doing that we don't see in the press, which is probably the more effective stuff. And so it seems maniacal that the Republicans want us to just go and announce strategy like they don't have televisions or whatever. We do not have a DVR. We cannot see what is coming. Like, I don't get it. Is
Your
Carl still with us?
impression isn't dead on, by the way.
Yeah. Is Carl still with us? Do we have you, Carl?
No, I think he got dropped by the evil Dennis.
Oh, sorry, Dennis. Yeah, sorry, because we're in a rush. That's okay. Appreciate it,
Yeah, we're
Carl.
in a
Great
rush.
point.
Gotta go.
One more call, I think, and then we can do the happy ending.
Seth from Mississippi.
Cool. Oh, hey, Seth. You were going to call and have a happy ending, I bet. But just try not to swear. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I got not one but 2 happy endings.
Okay, good. Well, then hold it, because let's play the song first, and then Seth will do the first happy ending. Hit the song.
I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
Moon River. I don't find anything wrong with you.
Oh. Well, sure it's not for a lack of looking.
So, go ahead, Seth. Let's hear what your happy endings are.
Well, I'm probably one of the few people in this country that have actually used 9/11 in a more positive light.
Okay.
And the reason why is because back in 2006, a man from Texas and a record that he made, an actual CD that he made, had rescued me from suicide. 9/11, 2006. A man by the name of Jack Ingram rescued me from suicide, and his CD that saved me was Live Wherever You Are.
That's great. And okay, that's awesome. And that's what you need to do. I always argued that one of the best things we could have done in response to 9/11 was diplomatic pressure, aligned with obviously a sort of a criminal investigation and tacit support through a bunch of other countries, and then spend all the money we would have spent bombing Iraq and Afghanistan building this country up to an annoying degree. We're going to take $3 trillion that we would pour into the desert, and we're going to build schools, we're going to build universities, we're going to reinforce our roads, we're going to create broadband for everybody. All that money that we spent on the Iraq War, if we'd have spent that on those things, it would have been more frustrating for the terrorists than killing some of them. Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
Yes, and speaking of going to Iraq and stuff, in terms of all the soldiers that have went to Iraq because of what happened on 9/11, and you hear stories of them coming back with PTSD being so bad that they get to the point of suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Well, back in 2009, Oxford University did a study on treatments for PTSD, and the biggest one of them all is can you use Tetris, the video game Tetris, to prevent PTSD?
Right.
And then again, and the study came out that said that for 10 minutes, if you played Tetris for 10 minutes, a good chunk of those violent flashbacks can easily go away if you played Tetris for 10 minutes. So for everyone out there listening on WCPT, if you got any veterans that have come home from war and they're having violent flashbacks,
help them refocus.
It's easy.
Well, it's not, I don't think it'll be as simple as them playing Tetris, but that can be a part of their their overall, there's no reason to skip treatment, but I will say that is good. And it's probably, by the way, why a lot of people sit around and play Tetris and Bejeweled and games like that, because there's such great stress relievers in those situations. Thanks for the call, Seth. We're running out of time. So, and awesome to be in the chat room. Thanks everybody who's on the YouTube page.
Can you imagine the conversation when you're trying to convince a guy who's having a violent flashback that he needs to play Tetris and
waving
he needs to
a gun,
now?
standing on a ledge?
I am not gonna play Tetris, and you are not gonna make me.
Right? Like, dude, look. You can rotate the blocks left and right with this button.
I was in the stuff up to my chin.
Right. Yeah, I was about to go off on a tangent. What if he was attacked with large blocks while he was in the war? And then, like, the one guy, a wall fell on me.
Trapped. Yeah, he was trapped. They slowly bricked him in this awful form of torture.
And they suggested, like, maybe we can go with Angry Birds. Like, no, I was attacked by birds. Like, this is not helping. Okay, bad conversation. Okay, so happy ending time. Let's do some happy ending stuff. Fire away. By the way, do you guys? First of all, let me do a nerd one real quick. Surgeons use 3D printed brain replica to practice delicate surgery that saved an infant's life who has epilepsy. A 3D printed brain replica was developed by the simulator program at the hospital. The model is printed in soft plastic with a precision of 16 microns per layer, so they could practice what they were going to have to do on his brain to cure him. Without having to go in first. They could do it, and, it's nice to know that they go in and go, oh, that's what your brain looks like at that layer. I'm going to try not to clip that thing so you can still sew and sing and say the letter 9, the number 9. So anyways, that's a really awesome, I'm a big fan of the 3D printing, so that's a good start in that. Okay, so Dennis, you got one?
Yeah, I got one. Mine's quick, man. Over on my vacation, me and my buddy were hanging out. Have you heard Joe Rogan's Alex Jones impression?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Is it cool if we play it?
No, absolutely, yeah.
Hit it! Here we go, baby.
Publicly admitted on his show that he is a Mason. He has Duncan Trussell on, who talks about how wonderful it is to be a Mason and spreading propaganda and disinformation about Masons being about...
That's it. That's all that is. That's
awesome.
Great, man.
That's dead on. That is beautiful.
Yeah. He pulls that growl in every single time.
Yeah.
Nice. Mason.
He needs to eat a big slice of chocolate cake while he's doing it, though. Because that was my experience.
Cake.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Johnny. Thank you. Welcome back, Dennis. We're so lucky to have you back. Always awesome. Thank you to our callers and everybody on YouTube for putting up with my sound issues. And we will see you next week. And we're more than likely militarily we will be doing more of the same. But we'll be dealing with women's issues next week and the voting. Yes. Voting. Register. Make sure you're registered. Go tell somebody. It's Full Court Press. We'll see you next week. King's X. Bye, everybody in the chat room. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Johnny. I don't know if Johnny can still hear me ever because he
can hear you, man, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great show today. Really awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. And fire in the belly callers. We'll do more of that. Tell Dick K I said hi, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
We got the documents.
Yes, we have the documents and the freedom seeds. Okay, bye. Well, all right. All right. Let's see. See if I can get into YouTube. Chat room. There you go. My channel. Events. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. I try not to have this loop back on. Chat room. There you go. Hey everybody. So yeah, I managed to fix that stuff. I'm gonna have to cut this video down about halfway, simply because the first hour doesn't have any audio. But made it happen. All right. And anyways, I wanted to say bye to you guys in person this time, because I haven't been able to like go on to the YouTube page while I've been viewing it with this thing, because it's a little squirrely to like kind of check in chat room wise. But now I figured out how to do it, and we're all good, and it should be awesome. And yeah, so there you go. Let's see. I don't know how to transfer from that right now, and my software is wonky as hell. So I'd have to switch over computers, and I'm not quite sure how to do that right now. So I will do a hangout. I feel like I've just solved this issue. And so hopefully I'll be able to fix the next one a little easier. Fingers crossed. But anyways, you guys are awesome. And I will see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye.